effective e-learning and in-person learning experiences, utilizing universal design for learning principles and also advanced AI tools. And I can personally speak to all of that, that James is a very successful instructional designer, and I'm excited to hear his presentation. So take it away, James.
Wow, thank you so much, Kristen. It's fantastic to be here today. This topic is so pertinent right now. This whole conference, the AI Institute, is such a wonderful opportunity to learn new ways of utilizing AI, learning about the mechanics of AI, and then being able to put it into practice and then use it on a daily basis. And so I would like to begin my presentation about demystifying artificial intelligence. Because when I think of artificial intelligence, I think of a computer that's has a personality that is basically like a human, and it will respond to what you ask, and it will always give you the correct answer. But in truth, that is not accurate. And so in this presentation, I would like to go into a little bit about how AI is actually working. And if you were here in the previous session with Marcelo and Joshua, they did a fantastic job of explaining the concepts, many of the concepts that I will talk about. So let me get started by sharing my presentation PowerPoint. Is everyone able to see this? Laura, thank you. Okay, fantastic. Also, let me bring up the chat because I'm going to use the chat as well. Okay, demystifying artificial intelligence. Like I said a little bit earlier, AI is changing the world, and it's really important for us as educators to be able to be out in front of that because our students are absolutely out in front of AI and they will be using it in the classroom. So all of these concepts are very important for us as instructors or instructional designers. So the purpose of this presentation is to help improve your understanding of AI and how it works. Uh, this way, we will have a better idea how to use it and a better understanding of what it can and cannot do. So I will break this presentation into 4 parts. What is artificial intelligence? Understanding the terminology so we can speak about artificial intelligence a little bit more clearly. How I personally use GPTs and Chat GPT, and then I will leave some space at the end for questions. So let's start with a very high level question. What is artificial intelligence? So I will give you 30 seconds to put your answer in the chat, and we'll take a look at what everybody thinks. So please go ahead. Computer-based knowledge. That's a good explanation. Draws from input into database to form new text. Any other ideas? faster, and more powerful human intelligence, but without emotion or values, information gathering in a quicker way than I can. Large-scale predictive models, right, that use trained approaches and information to generate content, technology to solve complex tasks. All of these are correct. All of these are correct, and that's a fantastic place to start. I want to show you the relationship, very high-level relationship between all of these key terms. So let's begin here. Artificial intelligence is the use of computers to simulate human processes such as interpreting and generating language. But obviously, like we can see from the chat, there are many ways to define artificial intelligence. So actually, artificial intelligence is an umbrella term that generally refers to systems that behave as if they were intelligent. But in this sense, it refers to the ability to perform cognitively complex tasks such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. A tiny bit about the background. The term AI dates back to the 1950s, to computer science in early days, and has roots, very strong roots in military research. So over the last 70 some years, AI has evolved to encompass a wide range of applications across industries, education, and, as you know, personal use. So two main research areas exist in AI: strong AI, or artificial general intelligence, and narrow AI, or weak AI. And we will talk about those soon. So AI is a complex topic, as we all know. It is important that we develop a fundamental understanding of AI's basic concepts as they relate to each other. So we'll explore terminology from the large scale AI to very specific Chat GPT, something I'm sure many of you have experience with. So let's take a look here. I tried to set everything up so we have a hierarchical view of artificial intelligence, and then scale it all the way down to something very specific that we use, ChatGPT. We have topics of narrow intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, large language models, and GPTs, or generative pre-trained transformers. So we're going to go through each of these concepts and see how they relate to each other. Each one is nested within the one before it, so they're all related. Okay, let's begin. Okay, let's begin by understanding some terminology. So strong AI aims to replicate human intelligence in all aspects. So the research goal here is to create systems that can solve previously unseen problems just like a human. The goal would be super intelligence, or as some people say, a singularity. So AI systems that can match or exceed human intelligence is the goal. However, the time when both researchers and users believe that this is achievable is still very far in the future. Narrow AI, on the other hand, refers to specific systems or task-specific systems that are designed for jobs like language translation or image recognition. So unlike strong AI, narrow AI is not meant to replicate human intelligence in all aspects. Instead, it's designed to perform specific, narrowly defined tasks. Narrow AI systems have a lot of practical uses. when you encounter an AI application online or at work when you're using, for example, ChatGPT. So I'd like to ask the chat another question. The question is, do you think that strong AI will ever be possible? I'll give people 30 seconds to put their answer in the chat. Remember, strong AI can replicate human intelligence in all aspects. Joshua, no. Laura, no. Meredith, no. Ah, we're getting some yeses and mostly very interesting. It's hard to tell. And I think what people have found out in the last 30 or 40 years is that human intelligence and consciousness is a lot more complicated than we initially thought. There are a lot of maybe processes happening that we were not aware of. So creating uh, a strong AI might be a little bit further off than initially people thought at the beginning of the computer revolution. But yeah, this is really interesting. Maybe, but AI lacks the creativity spark connections of human intelligence. Yeah, it's very interesting to think about. Understanding terminology, machine learning. So remember, machine learning is part of narrow AI. A machine learning systems analyze large amounts of data and identify patterns. So over time, they improve their performance by learning from new data. I guess a crude example would be your spam email filter, which seems to work pretty spotty at best, or your bank's credit card fraud detection, which seems to always work, even if you don't want it to. So this machine learning contrasts with traditional systems, which rely on pre-programmed rules for decision making, but without learning from data. The example I thought of was a calculator. For example, just a traditional program that you might have used in the past. Here we have two examples, traditional computing, for example, if-then statement, or a calculation using plus or minus. And then here, machine learning, where the computer can perform a task it has learned to do from a set of data. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Understanding terminology, deep learning. So remember, deep learning is a part of machine learning. Deep learning is a part of machine learning that uses models called artificial neural networks, hence the term deep. Although inspired by the human brain, artificial neural networks, they work very differently. Well, maybe not very, but they work differently from how our brain would actually operate. Deep learning is a pattern recognition system. It looks at large amounts of data and becomes good at recognizing patterns, enabling it to make accurate predictions on new and unseen data. So in short, deep learning allows computers to learn and make decisions by processing a lot of data and improving over time until they can reliably recognize patterns and make predictions. So I showed this slide to my wife, and she said, "Okay, great, but I still don't understand. I would like an example." So the first example I thought of is, well, deep learning would be able to determine, I shouldn't say, determine the difference between a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat. So, for example, let me talk a little bit more about that. So, you would give a deep learning model lots of examples in the input layer So it could be millions and millions of pictures of dogs and cats. The model has lots here of hidden layers right here. Maybe something you've heard about before. So each layer learns something different, maybe starting from simple things such as shape or color and gets more complex as it goes. The model makes guesses about what it sees, like whether the picture, is a cat or a dog. If it gets it wrong, it will adjust itself and improve. So it's something that is an iterative process that will improve with the more data that it gets. With enough examples and adjustments, the model gets good at recognizing patterns so it can make accurate predictions on new data it hasn't seen before. So remember, deep learning is a part of machine learning. Now let's get more specific. Let's talk about generative AI. So I went ahead and I used my son Jason as the model for this AI generation. So let's take a little look at what that would be. Another good example. Yeah, I was encouraged to use this example. Yeah, generative AI is a branch of deep learning. Remember, we're getting smaller down towards the ChatGPT. Generative AI is a branch of deep learning that aims to create or modify original content. So it doesn't always know what you are expecting when it creates original or modified content. It's using statistical patterns from the mass amount of data to generate similar content without necessarily understanding the content the way that humans do. So let's take a look at this image. It's kind of fun. Are you able to see how the image on the right was trained by the hidden layers in the deep learning model using millions of different photos? So let me ask the chat. What did the deep learning model decide that Jason needed to be a better pirate? I'll give people 30 seconds to put that in the chat. 6 fingers. That seems to be the issue. Eye patch, right. All right, bandana, hat, and the eye patch. Oh, yep, the sword. I guess it's a cutlass sword. Yeah, the Jolly Roger flags, two of them. Ship railing, right? So it appears like he's on the deck of a ship. Yeah, boats and flags. Yeah, great. It's so interesting that the deep learning stripe. Yeah, that's right, the stripe shirt. I didn't think about that. You can see that the deep learning model used probably millions and millions of photos of what a pirate would look like. And that would include maybe a tricorner hat, sword, uh, pirate ship, flag. No parrot, though, strangely enough. Maybe they're looking at a lot of Amazon Halloween costume photos. So just remember that the generative AI, it didn't create something new like a human would exactly. It used millions of images to create or modify what already exists. No 3-day stubble. Yeah, he's not there. Just he's still a young, cute pirate. Okay, let's get a little bit more specific. The large language model. And this is something that was expertly talked about in the previous session. I'm going to use a very simple way to talk about a large language model. So large language models basically they recognize and are trained by large amounts of texts. So hence large language model. Large language models are a product of generative AI applied to language data. For example, they might be trained on all the books and all the articles on the public internet. So that's a lot of information, unbelievable amount. And they're utilizing the complex processes to generate human language effectively. Generative AI and deep learning, they're using all of those concepts and applying it to language. Um, LLMs are sometimes called fancy or complex autocompletes, as they essentially try to complete text input by predicting what comes next based on a given context and patterns in the training data. I mean, that's very broad, but a very simple way to think of something like that would be when you use Google and you start typing a word and it gives you an autocomplete or predictive text. This question, is math considered a language under LLM umbrella? That's a great question. I just know that when I use LLMs, I'm able to do math calculations. Yeah, that's a very good question. For some reason, I feel like it would be, math would be considered under an LLM umbrella. Some very popular ones are ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini. Copilot again is based on the same OpenAI ChatGPT that we use with the GPT-4. Getting closer. So understanding terminology, the generative pre-trained transformers or GPTs. So generative pre-trained transformers are a special or specific type of large language model that can perform complex tasks with extremely high fluency and accuracy. GPT-4 is an incredible tool. GPT-4o apparently is even faster. And so you can see a lot of really amazing advancement in just the last few months or years. GPTs are typically trained, again, on large corpuses of data, such as, again, all the texts on the internet. And they can create, relationships and patterns and structures of language to generate new texts. And GPT is essentially recognizing and predicting statistical patterns in data. And it is a way that we can interact with generative AI and these deep learning models. I just want to take a real quick look at the chat. Is there a published empirical research on the accuracy of LLM AI tools? I'm not too sure about the research that has been done on that, or if there's probably a lot of longitudinal studies. It's going to take a long time to see really how accurate, like what kind of improvement in accuracy, but I imagine they're becoming much more accurate on a daily or monthly basis because they're being trained on more and more data. Okay, so let's transition a little bit from what we talked about. We talked about a lot of concepts. We went from AI and then went all the way down to ChatGPT, something that you probably have used. I think that AI will revolutionize education, not just education, but will revolutionize society in general. And so I'm trying to get ahead of the curve and try to apply ChatGPT to my daily life and my role as an instructional designer and curriculum developer at Clover Park Technical College. It has been a wonderful place that encourages us to use AI and to develop our understanding and find ways to apply these concepts and tools to benefit our students and faculty. So let me ask the chat. I want to ask you a question. Um, how often do you use ChatGPT? From 1 to 10, 1 being never, and then 10 being used every day or multiple times a day. Eleanor's 5, Jillian 1, Snowy's 3, Kristen 7. It seems there's quite a bit of a spread. Few of you use ChatGPT every single day, but I would like to encourage you to find new applications for ChatGPT in your life and in your career. Let me show you how I've utilized it in my career. So how I use GPT as an instructional designer. So ChatGPT is like having a personal assistant, someone who can help you create content, help you modify content, and help you check the integrity of your content, whether it checks all the boxes that you need to have filled. So one of the really important things that we do as an instructional designer is we need to make sure that our content aligns with standards and expectations for our course. So with content alignment, I use ChatGPT to make sure my content aligns with things like the SBCTC Washington course design standards. I use it to make sure that my course content follows accessibility standards, and it can be trained actually to follow any standards that I choose it to follow. So for example, in ChatGPT 4, you can create your own GPT, and then this will allow you to take the standards, for example, a document or the content of a website, and use those as the basis for what the GPT is trained on. So while doing that, I can put in my content, and then the GPT will tell me whether my content aligns with the standards or not. Has anyone ever done something like this? You put it in the chat if you have ever used the ChatGPT to make sure your content or something that you've written, right, has ever aligned with a set of standards. Not yet. I really recommend doing this. This is something that's really, really neat and saves a lot of time. It can even be done, for example, if you're looking for a job, you can use the job posting and your resume, and then ask, in what ways does my experience align with the job posting? It's just a way of checking your content to a certain set of standards. Yeah, yeah, Paul, it's a really great idea. So let's do something else. Instructional materials development. So this is kind of neat. There are lots of different plugins in ChatGPT 4, and these allow you to bring in third-party software to develop things in ChatGPT. For example, I used Canva. I don't know if many of you have used Canva, but it's an online graphic design program. I used the Canva plugin in ChatGPT 4 to create this PowerPoint presentation. So I was able to put in my content, and it gave me suggestions for layout, template layout, for color scheme, for fonts, um, for all kinds of little graphic flourishes and course images. It did a wonderful job of being an assistant. And so it helped me get going when what might have taken me twice or three times as long to create this presentation without that help. Oh, let me go back. Um, like I said earlier, the GPT can be a wonderful designer assistant. So I use ChatGPT to review my curriculum design. I often can get great insight, such as alternative ways to teach a lesson based on different principles, like UDL principles. And this is such a wonderful way that you can get a different perspective of teaching content. Maybe you've always taught content um, in a traditional classroom setting uh, through lecture, but GPT can give suggestions. What about think, pair, share exercises? What about flipped classroom exercises? Lots of different ways that you can apply your content. And ChatGPT is there to give you suggestions. It's like having a curriculum design or instructional design specialist there for you to always give advice. So all of these things make my job a little bit easier, and I hope that you can investigate ChatGPT and make them work for you. Finally, I want to talk about daily tasks. So I use ChatGPT to learn new skills all the time. So for example, if I don't know how to use JavaScript or I don't know how to program, I can literally ask ChatGPT, how do I write a program in JavaScript to blank? For example, to create a click box on a website. And it will give me the code and it will also give me an explanation. And like Joshua mentioned in the previous presentation, you can ask, could you make this or make these directions simpler and easier to understand? And that is one of the best prompts that you can ever do with GPT. Can you make this idea easier to understand? It's very useful, and you can teach yourself many things doing this. Another thing I have used ChatGPT for recently is to learn how to automate a lot of my workflow. For example, there is a program in Microsoft called Power Automate, and it can do things like generate emails or send emails after someone responds to a survey. So I had no idea how to do something like this. But with the ChatGPT, I asked, please tell me how I can automate emails being sent out after a survey is complete. I wrote out the instructions and then it gave me a step-by-step guide how I could go into Power Automate and create that chain of events. So when someone completes a survey, it will send those emails. So does this free version allow you to do all this? That's a good question. I have been actually using the paid version of ChatGPT 4. I would like to do some more experimenting with the free version because that definitely is more accessible, and it's much better to give assignments to students where they're not prevented from the more advanced versions of the GPT by a paywall. So yeah, I think that's a really good question. I would like to look into that in the future. So I did a little bit of research about what are some GPTs that could be useful for you or your students. And so I will share this presentation. I will put a link to this in the chat at the end when we conclude. So I want everybody to have access to these different GPTs. These are really wonderful sources, not just for student tutoring aids, but also for um, creating courses based on content and breaking the content down into easily understandable chunks. One of the most popular ones is Tutor Me by Khan Academy, and that specializes in math and science. And I think that's a really great tool for STEM subjects. Um, Universal Primer is a GPT. These all exist within ChatGPT, by the way. Universal Primer is a great GPT that will allow you to break down complex topics, and they will help you understand how you can incorporate something like, say, for example, computer programming, break it down into easily understandable chunks, and then you could build lessons around those pieces. So Universal Primer is really good. It's good for students. It's also good for educators. Also, another few of them that are really good. The social emotional learning um, tool. This is an aid for your course content. You can put it in and make sure that your content uh, follows follows these principles, and also gives you an example of how you can improve your content. And these things like the paper interpreter analyzes and explains paper research, um, research papers, and then allows you to break down these complicated papers into small pieces that are easier to understand. It will let you look at the abstract, the background, limitations and applications, all in a reduced and easier to understand manner. It's a very neat tool. The research practice integration bot translates research insights into practical and actionable advice for educators and their students. So this is another tool. I haven't looked too much into this one, but this was highly rated online, and it's definitely something you should take a look at. So in the chat, I think I have an application for each of these for our participants' purposes. Much brainstorming to be done. Okay. Yeah, there's so many different ways that we can apply GPTs for our classrooms. And I think one of the best ways for us to learn is to share our experience. So this presentation is definitely an opportunity for me to share with you some of the things that I have learned, and hopefully can inspire you to look into ChatGPT and find applications into your own class. Okay. So I'm going to get to the end very soon, and then I'm really excited to open up uh, this session for questions, and we will talk about our experiences using GPTs, and then also hopefully be able to learn a few new things. So like I said, I hope everything that I have presented so far increases your understanding of AI concepts. Remember, AI is a very uh, large umbrella term that includes all of the different concepts that we talked about today. So um, I encourage you to continue your education. Um, what is generative AI? What is machine learning? Yeah, what is deep learning? What is machine learning? These are all very important, and they're all interconnected. And so if we're able to talk about these concepts and have an understanding of what they mean, we'll have a better idea of how we can use them when we ask ChatGPT prompts and ask them things to help us at work. Okay, I would like to open the session up for questions. Here, let me stop my share just a moment. Yeah, 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 perfect. You can either put your questions in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and then I will call on you and we can talk. I would say I've been using ChatGPT seriously for about a year and a half now, and I use it every single day.
James Corey had a question in the chat. Are we allowed to share your presentation with other educators at our institution?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I will when we get to the end of the session, probably in about 7 minutes or 8 minutes, I will put a link to I'll put a link to my presentation. You are more than welcome to use it. Yeah, thank you for asking, by the way. Jillian.
Where do you go to find good prompts? So a lot of times if you're asking it for information, but you don't know the words that it's looking for,
Right.
where do you go to look for those kind of ideas?
That's a great question. To be honest, sometimes I will ask ChatGPT, how can I write a good prompt for this question? And so, in a lot of ways, you can ask ChatGPT a lot of meta questions. For example, how can I best interact with you? Or how can I best create how can I best create a prompt to do this? And remember, it's trained on everything that has ever been available on the internet, public internet. And many people have asked the same questions you have.
Well, we're on the same campus, so I expect you'll be seeing me.
Okay, come on over. We'll prompt together.
I think that's an important point to note, James, is that a lot of prompt creation is practice to kind of figure out how the GPT responds to you. And the more you prompt, the more you kind of understand what it's looking for and what you have to give as input in order to get the output that you want.
Yep. Excellent, Kristen. That's true. It's a learned skill. And I noticed that Paul put a structureprompt.com link into the chat. That's great. That's fantastic. Remember that uh, that the chat is it's looking at millions of different answers and it's trying to make the best connections it can for your situation. And so it's going to answer things in a way that is very, how would you say, very standard. It's going to look at the data. It's going to try and make a middle of the road response for you. And the more you understand the ways it makes those connections and creates those responses, the better. Is it Margie?
Thanks, James. Um, so you've talked in your presentation about Chat GPT, but those of us who work at schools that are using Microsoft, um, you know, we're getting pitched Copilot
Right.
all the time. How would you compare the two? Is this a Microsoft versus Apple kind of moment?
Not quite. So the Copilot is actually using the same technology that ChatGPT uses, but it is because it's through Microsoft, it's going to be pointed in Microsoft's direction. So remember we had all of those hidden layers in the deep learning? Those are probably I'm not so the thing is I can't talk too authoritatively on this topic, but I have a strong feeling that Microsoft is heavily influencing the answers. Right. Copilot
Thank you.
draws from your own organization's info. Yeah. Just as an anecdote, my wife uses Copilot. She works at a large company, and I noticed it's not as impressive as ChatGPT 4 or 4.0. But that's just my anecdotal observation. Are there any other questions? I really, oh, yeah, Margie, please go ahead.
This is a bit of a stretch and kind of unfair at this end of the presentation, but are you willing to dip into ChatGPT and show us how you get to the Canva plugin, or how hook up, applications you use to your instance of ChatGPT?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the time to do that.
Okay.
Luckily, you can ask ChatGPT how.
Okay.
That's how I did it. And so what I really encourage people to do is to be very open. It's not like you are trying to manipulate ChatGPT or like trick it. You can be very, very direct with what you want. You can say, for example, I want to use a Canva plugin. How do I do that?
Wow.
And so in that sense, you're able to figure out things very quickly that, otherwise could take months or, years to learn how to do. And it would be able to do it for you very quickly.
There's another question in the chat. How did you get your college to pay for 4.0?
That is a Kristen Copeland Dean question.
I just approved it. That's
Yeah.
that's the short answer. We had a little bit of money this year, and so I was like, sure, go ahead. I don't know that anyone else has that kind of freedom, but I think that as you're in these conferences, learning some of the key, do I want to say negotiation techniques around the necessary applications for teaching and learning, I think it's really important for our students going into the workforce to be familiar with it. And if we're not letting our instructional design team and faculty understand it, it's really in the long run hurting students and impacting their employment because of it. I would really encourage people to look up the statistics with employment for students that are familiar with AI tools and those who aren't. And it's really startling, and it's becoming even more of a spread between students who are being trained in it and who are not. So if you're struggling to get it paid for with your college, or even for them to be interested in using it and not just banning it, I would really look toward research that with employment. And I think that's honestly for me, it was the biggest factor in approving that purchase for my instructional design team. Corey,
And
do you want to speak more to that comment?
yeah,
Because I think that's a really good comment. You're still muted, Corey, if you were going to unmute.
There, I think I got it. Sorry, I was on my phone. Yes, I'm an instructional designer at my campus as well. And that's something that we're we're not quite on the AI ball yet, I don't think. We're still learning, but you kind of setting that example and making that purchase for your instructional designers is going to then help out your faculty. And then once that helps out your faculty, that's going to get the knowledge into the hands of the students where it really needs to happen, because they are going to be using this as their assistants in the workplace. So that's exactly what I mean about future proofing them.
Okay, I'm going to put my presentation in the link if anyone is interested. Yeah, perfect. Well, I had a wonderful time presenting. This was my first time presenting uh, at the AI Institute. It was just wonderful to have everybody here. Thank you for attending on a Saturday, and just that community of talking about AI, instructional design, and education. That really makes it all worth it. And there's so many things we can learn from each other. In the future, if you have questions or you would like to contact me, I can put my email in the chat as well. James Shumate. Okay. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 12 o'clock newbie session. I am discouraged to tell you that it looks like the presenter hasn't made it in this session yet. So you're welcome to hang out here for a couple minutes to see if he makes it in. Otherwise, we're going to put the other two Zoom rooms in the chat so that you could attend ethics or application room. So if you look in the chat, James has given the other two tracks. If the presenter, just like unfortunately yesterday also happened, if the presenter does show, we will let you know in the chat of the other two rooms so that you can come back if you'd like. Otherwise, I would encourage you at this point to just go ahead and go into ethics or applications that are in the chat right now, and we apologize.